Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. This is going to be reading for Madeline Soto part 2, because in the last part I didn't cover everything I wanted to. We did get to, sorry, one moment, I just need to pull something. Okay. We did get to the answer that the mother was aware. There's a couple of cards that stood out to me, to be honest, that I want to delve into deeper. I did mention that in the area, I think there was somebody who was leading a ring of trafficking. I still believe that it came very strongly in the cards, so I don't know if that's something that's going to come out. It's been out just before Madeline's case or something like that, maybe. If not, it's going to come out. I don't necessarily think she was sold to that trafficking, but there is something I want to dive into. I also wanted to dive into the grandma's energy. I mentioned that I was not comfortable with it, although all I'd seen was the picture of the grandmother, and while I was just like looking at bulletins before I do the first read, which means usually there are only about a minute to 3 minutes that I go into so that I don't have too much information, but I have some information. I clicked off it within I don't know, 20 seconds or something, because I didn't feel like there was anything really said. But what I did do is I did check out a minute and a half where she's actually on screen. She's sat at a desk opposite an interviewer, and something I mentioned in the first reading was about the language Spanish or Spain or something, and they do speak Spanish. I believe it's Spanish because it was being translated, so that's validated, and maybe you all knew also. But there's no emotion there, and I find it very strange. What she was saying is basically that there was a girl who was wearing a green top, sat there for a few minutes, and then she left, and it seems like what she was saying is that they thought it was Maddie, but it wasn't her. The mother was very tired the night after work, so she must have got up tired and asked Stefan to drop Maddie at school instead. And that's really all she had to say from the interview I saw. Maybe there's a longer one, but there's no emotion, and I find that really weird. I also went back to the interview. I didn't see it all. I think, was it Fox News that there was the first interview where the mother is and then Stefan is in the background, and she's kind of like she's there. There's that shaking that I mentioned, which is fear. It's not sadness, and she just really is in a lot of fear, and it's all nerves. But as I watched a bit more than 3 minutes of it, or a minute and a half, I can't remember what I watched last time, it seems like there's a lot more to it. I can see him in the background, and also what I also see is that at one stage he's crying and she's consoling her. Obviously his crying is fake, and I think you'll all be aware of that and probably seen that as one of the first interviews. But I found that really weird, her consoling him. She's like the mother, shouldn't he be consoling her? And the way she's consoling him is really, really weird as well. I don't know, I just was not comfortable with that at all. So I'm going to dive into a few things. I know that I didn't mention something. I wanted to mention that last time I really got heavy, and I'm getting really strong headache at the top of my head right now. And a little bit on my throat, but I mentioned about the chest, and I still believe that so. But I think also when they found the body, there would have been one leg sort of not straight or something, just maybe, I don't want to say pulled out of her limb or socket, not to that extent, but yeah, there's a bit of an injury to one leg. And I don't mean like at the bottom of the leg, I mean like higher up towards the hip. I don't know if I mentioned the numbers 4 and 8 being significant in this case. I'm just looking at my notes because when I finished, I just put some bullet points of what I wanted. I mentioned the timeline being off. Now, what I also found weird, I don't know if I mentioned it in the first one, is that she celebrated her birthday on the Sunday night. And I don't know if the grandmother was at the house and Stefan was obviously there, or if it was at the grandmother's house. Now, I think the beef I have with the grandmother is, before I saw the interview of a minute and a half, just before I started this, is that I think the grandmother could have saved Maddie that night, especially if the birthday was at her house, because I feel Maddie told her she didn't want to go home, and there was an indication of why she didn't want to go home, and that was just like blindsided and not looked at. I just find it really extremely weird when I saw the interview today that the grandmother has not, there's no tears there, there's like no sadness. It's kind of like more of a defensive kind of way, and it's like I said, that's all I saw is what I've just told you she'd said about the green top of the girl, and that Jennifer was tired, so maybe she asked Stearns to take Maddie. But I think that's where my beef is from the first reading, is that I believe Maddie indicated to her, and she told her she didn't want to go home if she was at the grandmother's house, and I feel that it was strongly there. But if not, she indicated to the gran, and I feel the gran picked up on some kind of like look from Stefan towards Maddie, because I told you, I mentioned in the first reading he was hyper sexual ly. It was like he was getting turned on, ready for that evening, and I think she would have picked up on some of the ways he looked at her. But I think she also turned a blind eye prior to that. But I do fully believe that evening, if Maddie could have stayed at the grandma's and she wanted to, or she wanted to stay at the grandma even if the party wasn't at the grandma's, the grandmother turned a blind eye and she could have saved Maddie. So that's what I have. And now when I just saw that interview with the grandma, I find it really weird that there's no grief there. Even if there's no tears, there's no grief there. I mean, it's poor quality TV, and it's in, I think she answered in Spanish, but it's yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, what your thoughts are on it. So that is something. And I think that's where I was saying she's like got this image or facade or something. I think she's also probably more worried. I feel like she's the type of person to be worried about what the public sees of her now because of all this, etc. I feel that that's the type of person she is. But yeah, I think, did I go through what happened that morning? Because I don't know if I crossed over. I think I did. So let's just go back to a couple of cards that that stood out to me in the last reading, and I think it was this deck that I used where a card stood out to me, because I'm going to get that out anyway because I want to talk about that. I might put this aside because these three cards also spoke to me. I don't know what time the mother gets off at work and comes home, but I also said in the first part there was definitely a conflict of that time. And honestly, I also asked if Maddie was pregnant, but I think this was not the reason of her being unalived. I actually think there was a conflict and there was a kickback, and also I think Maddie was starting to be a bit more vocal. So I don't know if she told someone. I know for sure she indicated to the grandmother, especially on her birthday evening. And the thing that I wanted to say, which was weird, is that the mother was at work. Like, one of the important people to be at your children's birthday is your mother, and it's not being celebrated on her actual birthday, which was the 22nd. So it's interesting that the mother was not there for the birthday party. I find that really interesting, because in this day and age, you could swap a shift, or you can ask for the day ahead or something like that. Clearly, they maybe didn't do it on the 22nd because it was a school night. Well, there's something significantly weird around that for me as well. Now, this card in the last reading came up, and I mentioned, you know, there was a bit of depression. I can't remember exactly what I mentioned, but the second message around this that I was getting was the mother actually tried to offer herself to Stefan just for that night, so that he would leave Maddie that night, and I don't think he didn't want that. He wanted Maddie, okay, and so I just want to say that he was offered, the mother offered for her to sleep with him. Disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only. Please make sure you're over the age of 18 or whatever the age is in your country. Use your own discernment, fact finding, and obviously legal and law enforcement are there to prove who's guilty and no one else. This is only my opinions, and I use divination. So yeah, she tried to offer, but he didn't want that, okay? I also feel like there might be some generational trauma that's been carried, that's been unhealed, that's resulted in the lack of protection of Maddie from the mother. So the mother could have been subtle to, and I've still not said that word right, to something in her past from the lack of protection from her mother, but I don't think to this degree, okay? So it's kind of passed down of generations. Now, what I did want to say is, I'm going to pull cards on it before I say it, but I believe this is, the reason is there was a conflict, and Maddie started speaking out. She might have started to say or indicate to people a bit more than maybe, you know, sort of, I had a fight with my stepdad. Maybe she said that in the past or something, or, you know, sort of, she's been upset at school and they've said, what's wrong? She's like, nothing. I just felt my parents or something was mean to me, my stepdad or something like that. But I think she was pushing back, and there was a risk of her really, saying everything and disclosing everything, and I don't think she was privy to what I'm going to pull cards to right now. But I also think, you know, in the last part I got rupture, got the word rupture, didn't I? So I do think she was hurt a lot more than what she'd been. I know that it'd been going on for a couple or several years, but I think it was a bit too rough. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, I purposely picked that picture for the thumbnail because when I first became aware of this case and I was seeing pictures all over the place, I felt like, I was like, wow, this is a bit much. The makeup, I wouldn't allow, and everyone's allowed to this screen, but we're talking about a 12-year-old, green eyeshadow and red lipstick. I just felt like she was allowed to be a bit more out there, or that was, you know, I don't think she said, can I wear makeup? I think it was more or less, you're gonna, maybe a thought implement is sort of prompted to her, for her to be like a bit, you know, have that more of a luring kind of adult yet young look, if that makes sense. Very difficult to describe, but that was something I wanted to mention in the first video. I was very uncomfortable with some of the photos that is of her. So just gonna have to cover these, okay? So I do get a yes here. I believe that he was recording and there was some online either exchange or just putting it online what he was recording with Maddie. He could have been selling it as well, but there was definitely some online work as opposed to her being in person trafficked, if that makes sense. It was just him, it wasn't someone else, but I think there was online work there being done. And there is that's not been uncovered yet. It's still a secret. There was a turning of the back on this, a blindsided of it on this. It could clarify. Let's just cut. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so definitely, and I don't feel with what I'm saying everything that I need to channel psychically. I'm just very honest reader, so I'll interpret a message that I feel psychically I need to channel, but sometimes there's other tied in readings, messages. So let me go through what I've got. I feel like he was like the big I am in this situation, and I don't think he wanted to share Maddie to be trafficked or with another person. I do think that he felt like he had the potential, and there was that potential of the online stuff and then the earning of it. But there was something that he was dissatisfied around this, and I think it was actually around maybe a bigger opportunity that came towards him, maybe to in-person traffic, but that was just not going to be possible. I don't think the mother would have allowed that extent. Let's just get, I'm going to put this on the side. Let's just, yeah, so, you know, this is where I was getting with this. He was loving at some stage the recognition. So I wonder if there was some kind of online recognition that he'd get back from other sickos that are probably on those platforms. Even if it wasn't sold, it was kind of like selling. So I do think there was some selling involved. Kind of, do you know when you post something and there's interactions live? Interesting, I'm thinking of live even now. You know, there's still hidden stuff around that, which I said there, and I wonder if they're moving in the right direction to find this out. I think so. I think they're moving in the right direction to find this out, and maybe we're not aware of that. I still feel there's a bigger message that that psychically Spirit wants me to channel to message to you about this, which might mean if it doesn't come through now, I do a quick update. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another Sebastian, by the way, because I've seen in the first one and second one, I just seen a snippet of their interview, but I think they've been talking a lot more, and I've got something more to say on that. There was a lot of anxiety and sleepless nights around this at some stage as well, but it also gave that feeling of, you know, I think there was a lot of anxiety, because I wonder if the person that I think I picked up on in the area or near there that was sort of into trafficking and sickos, children, pedo things, had caught a gist of this and contacted Stefan to be in sort of involved, or if they can agree to something. I don't know why I feel like this is the grandmother here with her barriers up. I know in the first reading, I think I got that she was the Queen of Wands, but here I don't know, I'm not even tuning into the grandmother, and I'm getting told this grandmother, look at this, and I think this is Maddie kind of asking, I don't mean it in this sense, you know, begging, but Maddie kind of asking for the grandmother, and she should have had a better judgment call on allowing Maddie to stay. Which would have, you know, patience around the situation, understanding, and being in the right heart place for Maddie, being a grandmother, would have led to less of the, you know, not the heartbreak, which is actually of what happened to Maddie. Now, there is something else around this that Spirit wants me to channel and message out into public around these cards, and I might just have to remember what I was asking. It's so, I'm going to put these cards on the side, and then I'm going to look at them again. These are the less, just put them in order of importance of what they came out, so that I know what is the less of. But I do think there might have been I wonder if Stefan has a bit of a history, but I definitely think the ring master of whoever I was picking up on, I don't think he's involved in this case, but I think he started getting privy to the recordings and maybe proposed some interest. So let me look at the energy of the grandmother towards Maddie. Now, this could be however it comes in general. It could be that it picks up on that evening. I'm very confident that I cleared my channel, that Maddie approached the grandmother to stay at her house that evening. She's indicated to her. Let's look at the grandmother towards Maddie. The grand towards Maddie, please, Spirit. And I'm not saying she didn't love her, but I don't know, there's a lack of empathy. I don't know, I cannot fathom people right now. Even within Sebastian's case, I cannot fathom it. I really cannot. And I'm getting angry. I don't know if that was into reverse. 7 of Wands. 2 of Cups. Can you see? She's tried to go to her. Look, who I said I was picking up in this read, the energy of the Queen of Swords. Who could have stopped the death. You know, not stopped it as in when it was happening or whatever happened. Who could have prevented this. I feel also there might have been a bit of a conflict or altercation. Look. She knew. She had some clarity. She turned a blind eye. She knew there was something wrong going on in the home. Maddie had spoken, had said something. I think there was some kind of, like I said, there was either some eye, you know, Stefan's eyes on Maddie at the birthday party, or in general there was, and maybe Maddie said something back to him. Maybe feeling a bit more confident because people were there. Now, did I get this card in the last reading? I can't remember what I interpreted it as. but I do think it was done at night. I mentioned that, I believe, in the last reading. Split the deck, and the deck is in two separate sides, but one is the heartbreak, and what's this one? Look how we get the Ace of Cups and the heartbreak. It's really, really sad. This is what it should have been, the love. There was a conflict that evening. And I think there might have been a bit of a conflict in front of the grandmother. I'm not saying he tried to do something necessarily in front of the grandmother, but I think she stood up to him with something in front of the grandmother before they went home, and there was a conflict there. I just feel like he was kind of like a selfish person as well when I keep seeing the Nine of Cups. Justice will be brought. Okay. There's going to be a breakthrough on this. And I think it's going to be around some DNA and also some other findings. And justice is going to bring it into balance. Now, the grandmother will have a choice to speak what she knows. Spirit wants me to say something else, and I'm not really sure. Let's just see. Please show me what you want to say. There will be clarity on the confusion of a lot of things that's happening right now. There seems to be this confusion. Now, some of you might say there's no confusion because it seems like the mother must have known, but I think there's some things that are not revealed that are going to become very clear. And also the justice, the legal framework are a bit confused about certain other things that are in this as well, which is causing confusion, sort of the veil at the moment, to make the right judgment call, to make the arrests that are needed. The online work is one of them that I think they're heading in the right direction. Look, they're heading in the right direction, like I said, to have that, but they've not found it out yet. They've not found it out. They've not found out some digital evidence that they need, or the online work that was occurring. And it's hidden quite well. It's not out there in the open. I also feel like there's going to be someone, maybe a friend or someone a bit younger, who's going to say something, who is going to say something, and that's going to lead to those that know that are being deceitful and hiding getting caught. Spirits tell me to go back to this card and the energy of the grandmother. Yeah, she knew. She knew. And she could have protected Maddie. There's so much that Spirit wants me to say, and it's kind of like, let's keep going. I mean, we want to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And if I do a part 3 for anything, if you're interested, we will do. Okay. So now let's just look at Stefan's energy with the mother. Okay. Let's look at that. Let me just look at the camera recording as well. So I think there was some online trafficking, online something. What do we have? 32. Maybe I can go on for another 15 minutes. I wonder if someone has a tattoo that's going to indicate something, by the way. There was definitely the argument that night, you know, what I got in the first reading, and the conflict, and they couldn't agree, and the mother offered herself. And that caused also then the conflict between the mother and the boyfriend. There's definitely posted stuff out there. The mother's not a strong individual, by the way. And there was extreme fear there. So I don't know how long it takes in the US, but I know that you get a state lawyer if you can't afford one. So how long does that take? Does it take about 6 months? Because she's gone very quiet, which I think she's been advised to, because I think she can crack. And I think with that, she needs to, and obviously, you know, Stefan is at a huge risk in jail. No one cares, of course, we don't care, but in jail, you know, one thing that the prisoners don't handle is child abusers and murderers. So he, you know, and they will attack. Now the mother, the reason I say I think she might crack and she needs to, she might have been told to stay. If she's been given a lawyer, she's probably been told to stay undercover and don't talk, because in that interview when she was consoling him, when she was talking in that 1.5 or 3 minutes that I originally saw, I think it was Fox News, she was shaking, there was some emotions. I said it was nerves and fear. I think she said, well, I don't know how much I can say, and that was just really, really weird. It was kind of like showing that Stefan has a control over her. And now that he's not there, I wonder if she's gonna just crack. So if she hasn't got a lawyer, what she's doing, staying out of the scene, is a good thing for herself. And I think for her safety. What's sickening is, you know, I think the grandmother knows. Like, I'm not saying the grandmother was involved, but she knew. And that evening she could have saved Maddie. Could she live with the guilt of that? That could be a question, actually. How is she feeling now Maddie is gone? I want to get a message from Maddie as well. So let's see what I can get through this time. If I can't, I'll do a part 3, but I'll do it. And it might be a bit more like Sebastian, which the part 3 for Sebastian is going to be on the stepfather. I'm just making sure these are upright and shuffled, because we're going to look at Stefan and the mother's relationship. Let's see their energy between them. Again, I feel anger towards the grandmother. It's really bad. This is disclaimer, entertainment purposes only, but I don't know if I mentioned, I wonder if they had financial issues. There's a timeline issue here as well, because I don't know, like, she was said to be, okay, so firstly, he dropped her off, but then she also said we dropped her off. So obviously we dropped her off is when they took her. But then also, I think, I feel like Maddie was recorded in the car with Stefan. I think she was already passed. And so was the mother in the car then? Because the mother said we took her. That's just weird. Or did he come back home and he dropped her stuff off? But how can she be getting dressed at the time he was throwing stuff in the garden? There's like a weird timeline thing, and maybe the crime. Let's ask the question again before I go, because I've gone. the energy between Jennifer Soto and Stefan Stearns. The energy between the two. The energy between their relationship. Spirit wants me to go here, but the problem is, oh, look at that, death and rebirth. 9 of Wands, the World. The Lovers. 2 of Wands. They've come up as the Lovers, so there was, you know, they did have a relationship there. And no, that's not obvious, because sometimes it could be that he just got with her so that he can be with Maddie, and he doesn't love her, and he doesn't, you know, they don't entertain being lovers, but we'll clarify in a moment. I just want to take a picture of these because Spirit wants me to use this deck. So seeing as I wanted to look into these cards to see if they say anything else. I think I remember what question it was for. If not, I usually get it channeled anyway. So I feel like this relationship had gone through a couple. I wonder if they'd split a couple of times and come back together. Did they meet online, by the way? How did they meet, or did they meet in person? Did they meet online? Were they living in different cities at first? Was he from a different town or city? The Moon. The mother, the mother had a lot of fear. I think she was like, when I say fear, she was more the submissive one. I can see why Spirit wanted me to use this deck. Knight of Cups in reverse, the Magician, the Hierophant. Were they actually married or not? There was big choices in this relationship at various times. If they were not married, I think she wanted the marriage, or one of them wanted the marriage, but it wasn't moving forward in that direction. One was really hoping to manifest having the marriage, but it wasn't moving in that direction. Was there a little bit of an age gap between them, or are they the same age? These two I'm not taking because I hadn't asked the question, but these I am. As a partner, I think there was a lack of stability from Stefan, a lack of love and stability from Stefan here. There was conflicts in the home. Maybe around money. And I think this is where also he might have got into the online aspect of what he was doing. And it was part of, there was definitely, definitely some online. And I wonder if there was an online ring or something as well there. But there was like basically, I'm still getting drawn back to that person who's in the area. I don't think he's tied to this, so please don't misunderstand me. But there was kind of some manipulation and abuse of power in that relationship. And there was an imbalancement of like the masculine and feminine energy. And there was a lack of energetic focus, a lack of discipline in some aspects, which we know, you know, is going in the wrong, it was going in the wrong direction. And some of it was hidden. This could be around what was getting done to Maddie, but also the mother. Was she privy to every single thing? My intuition is saying she's privy to the majority. There's, you know, if she's not privy to anything, it might just be that today he added something else towards what they do. It's not like anything massive. I'm getting pulled back towards what I said about the generations of maybe trauma that have been carried down that were not healed. And as I look down, the Star card, so I do think her mother might have been not protected by her mother or something like that. And I don't necessarily mean it has to be this kind of abuse, but there's something there. Maybe she had to work from a very young age, maybe something else. Secrets of the relationship, secrets that they hold together. Dark and light ones. Every time they try to move forward in a certain way, they can't. They stop. Look at the Chariot and the Fool. This is about, you know, being a bit, again, you know, I think he rejected her a few times. And I think this is maybe where it caused some issues. And naivety here, naivety of where it can lead. Is he really, he's not a king, she's not a queen in this, but what is happening? And we've got the High Priestess and the Hierophant, very strong, and the Magician. These are very manipulative energies. These are very controlling energies. You know, hoping for the new chapter, but being foolish in that. I don't think she felt good enough for him towards, after, you know, after like, especially after the first year. I don't know how many years they were together, but that just was crumbling the relationship. I've just asked a quick question to get a couple of cards on. Jen towards Maddie, Jennifer towards Maddie. Yeah, look, the lack of protecting her, turning her back on her when she knew she needed the protection as a mother. Because she was also felt left out in the cold. And also trying to be, also balancing being at work. Although it did cause a lot of anxiety and sleepless nights about what was happening. Where's Maddie's father, by the way? Does anyone know anything around that? That's just come to me. Maddie's father. What was the other question I was going to try and ask quickly? Let's see how much time I've got left. Okay, I think I need to end it here. I might do a separate read, which might be Maddie's message. And anything else that I want to touch base on. Maybe if an interview is done with the mother or something new, maybe I'll do some research because I haven't looked into other stuff. I might do a second read and incorporate some of that as analysis and a read on it. And I'll see you in the next one, beautiful souls. If you enjoyed this, let me know. Subscribe so you get notified. Take care, and I'll be back soon.